Hi guys, hope you are doing great. In this video, I want to talk about Node and Express, and using these two technologies, I would like to build weather app. As you can see on my screen that this is a nice looking title and this is the nice looking UI. This is the text box and a button where we can search with any location or the city in the whole world. And while we write something in this text box and hit enter or click on search button, it will return us some data, that is the temperature with the description, location, the date, and the icon of that particular location. So I will be building up this weather app, and not just the weather app, but I will be showing you how to structure your node code, how to structure your code in a way that if you want to build a full-fledged REST APIs, then you need to know that how we structure our Node Express code. So I'll be following all the best practices design patterns for Node while building this awesome weather application. And just to let you know that this is the nice looking UI. I've got this UI from here by Aditya Bandari, and I've got the UI HTML and CSS from here. I'm gonna give the link of it in the description below as a credit, but I have made some changes in terms of size, colors, font sizes, styles, and because I have made some changes over here. So credit goes to Aditya Bandari, and but I will be giving the files because I have made some changes, so I need to give updated files to you guys just to show you that credit goes to this guy. So now let's get started. I'm using VS Code, and I'll start off with creating a new application, a new node application. So I will be using the terminal of this VS Code. So first of all, I will be creating a package.json file. Okay, so I am assuming that you already know what is npm, and you might have been familiar with the package.json file. If not, I'll be explaining you during this tutorial. So make sure you have installed node in your system, and once you install the node and open up the terminal, you can see the version of the node and version of your npm. Okay, and using the npm is called the node package manager. Using it, we can install all the third-party libraries and express path, and there are a lot of libraries that we can use. So first of all, when we start a node project, we start off with npm init. So I will hit enter, and package name weather app version 1, description index.js. I want to give it this index.js as a starting point where we want to run our script. Just hit enter, 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 and finally yes, and it's gonna create a new file package.json. Okay, so this file is showing us that what is the name, version, description of this whole project that we are building. And right now we can just ignore. If you are just about to launch your application, you can make these changes. Okay, so let's move forward. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create few folder structure inside it. So first of all, let me create a folder inside it, and I'm gonna name it src, which is the source. Okay, and I want to create a public directory. Public directory will be containing all the css files, front end html files, and images, media files, and all these things will come over here. You can structure your code in your own way, but I'll be showing you the best way of doing these things. Okay, so public source, and the third folder I need is the templates. That are the templates to be rendered from our node code. And lastly, we would need a utils folder. This is how I structure my code. Utils will be containing the resources, the reusable functions that we might require in multiple node files. So all those reusable functions, I'll be putting it in utils folder. Okay, so now this is the package.json file. Now I need to install different libraries or the frameworks that I need to use in my application. So how I can install those things. Okay, so first of all, I need to have Express installed in my application. So npm I, and I want to write express. So what it's going to do is going to download the express package from internet, and it's going to add its reference in package.json file and install in our system within the folder directory node underscore modules, as you can see on my screen. Okay, and it has added its reference within the dependencies object over here. Okay, so now I'm gonna create a new file within the source directory, and I'm gonna name it app.js, and this is the starting point of our application. If we want to run our app, this is the first file from where our app will start. Okay, so what we can do is, first of all, we need to use express in order to call any particular API or run a server, create APIs, create different endpoints. So I'm going to create const express, and I will can write require and express. Okay, so it is imported in our app. Now I'm gonna create const app express like this, and here we have built our app. Now we need to run our server. Okay, so in order to run our server, what we can do is we can write app.listen. Let me create a variable called port, and I can give it a 3000, but let me give you a way that we can detect the port, the local port of your system, whether it's running on the server. If you have hosted your node project on any server, it will fetch that particular port from that server. So it's a good practice that you get that port from the environment of that particular system. So if there is no port exist in that particular server or system, then we will be using 3000. So app.listen on which port, we have written the variable port, and listen gives us a callback function, and I can simply write console.log server is up and running on port, and I can give it a port. Okay, all right. So now how we can run our node file? Okay, so we can run it node app, which is inside the src folder, and app.js. Okay, so it has given us an error that address, unhandled error, address already in use. So my server in another terminal is already running, so I'm gonna go and close it. So I have just closed it using a shortcut key. So node source app, so you can see server is up and running on port 3000. Okay, so if I go localhost 3000 and can't get any, but our server is running, and this error is coming because it's saying us that there is no default route exist in this particular server. So I'm gonna create a default route. So I can write app.get request response, and here I can write a render. Let me write not render, just send something from here. Hi, this is a weather app. Okay, I'll show you what does the render mean later on. So it's running now. Refresh, so you can see, hi, this is the weather app. So our server is running our default route, that is get is running. This is how we define our endpoint, or you can call it an API or a REST API using the express command. So our basic structure of the express app is up and running. We need to do a lot more things, so let's do and build a weather app. Okay, so let's move forward, and what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna create another route, app dot get, and for fetching the data of weather, I wanna create an API or an endpoint using /weather. Okay, and it gives us a request actually contains the data coming whoever calls this API, okay, whoever the client of this server is. So response this, okay, and here we can just write response.send this is weather endpoint. Okay, so that's been done. Now the last API that I want to create, that let's say that a particular endpoint doesn't exist. If a user write localhost colon 3000 slash abcdef, it doesn't exist. We need to show something to that user. Okay, so we can write app.get static will detect that this particular route doesn't exist, but make sure that the static route should comes at the end of all the routes written before that. Okay, we can't just uh, cut in and paste before any of these two routes. Okay, so we can write response.send, and this is, let's say, page not found. Okay, so let me just close the server and rerun it, refresh. Weather, hi, this is the weather endpoint. Now let me just write anything else like this, and it should show me page not found. So our server is up and running, our endpoints are set up, and we need to do a lot more things. So now I'm gonna create a few public paths in this particular Express app. So I need few more things in our package.json file. So I need to install those things. Okay, so npm I, and I need to have HBS. This is for handlebars, and this is a templating engine to uh, execute the HTML files from the backend node. We can have Jade, we can have EJS for templating engines, but I will be using handlebars in this particular tutorial. So HBS, it's going to download and add a reference in package.json file and install it in node underscore modules folder. I need to have a request module as well, because the request module will be used to call the API. Okay, so it has been installed now at npm I, and I need to have a request. Okay, because for fetching the weather data, the real-time weather data, I need to use some services from Open Weather Map website that I'll be showing you how we can use that. This is why we need a request. So these three dependencies have been installed. I'm just gonna hit cross. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I need to import and require these things. So first of all, I need to have HBS require HBS. Okay, and then I need to have path require path. I don't need request in this particular file because I'll be using the request in utils file that I'll be creating later on. Okay, so HBS and path have been required. Okay, so I'm gonna do is I need to define that which folder of our app contains static files like static HTMLs, images, media files, style sheets. Okay, so I need to give it a reference inside it. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable public static dir path, and I can get a path from the slash home of my Mac or Windows or Linux system using underscore underscore dir name. Okay, so path dot join underscore underscore dir name comma. So what it's going to return is it's going to return the location of this app.js file. Okay, but I need to give it a reference to this public folder that I just created. Okay, so I need to move backward a bit. So public. So this particular variable is containing the path starting from the system up to this particular public library. Okay, so we can have multiple folders in public library. Let's say we can have CSS folder, we can have JS folder, uh, we can have like, let's say that we only need this CSS and JS files because we don't need HTML files, so I'm not going to create a folder for that inside it, but we can have HTML folder over here and media folders over here. Okay, so it has been added. Now we need to tell Express that this variable actually contains the path to the static data, to the public data. Okay, so how I can do it? So I can do it using the app, which is the Express app use express.static, and here I need to give it the name of that variable. Now our Express app knows that this public folder contains all the style sheets JS and templating files. Okay, so our public folder has been set up. Now we need to let our Express server know that what is the folder for views and what is the folder for partials. Partials are something that are going to be included in multiple views, like header can be should be shown up in multiple HTML files, footer should be shown up in multiple HTML files. So these are called the partials. Okay, so I'm going to create a variables for that folders. So inside the templates I'm going to create two folders. I'm going to create partials, and I'm going to create a folder views. Okay, so I'm going to create two variables. Views path equals to path dot join underscore dir, and I need to move a bit backwards, so templates slash views. So this particular variable contains the path to the views. So partials path dot join underscore dir name template slash partials. Okay, so these have been done. Now let's tell our Express server that these are the locations where our views directory and partials directory exists. Okay, so how we can do it? We can do it by writing app dot set, and I can write view engine. Make sure you give it same as it is with a space view engine, no capital letters, because this is how it will work. So first of all I need to give it HBS because I want to let our Express server know that all the templates, all the HTML files that are going to be rendered are in the form of handlebars. Okay, so I need to give it a path now. So app.set views and views path. Okay, so that's been done. Now I need to give it the path for the partials as well. So the view engine has already been set up. This is why we needed to import the HBS file. HBS stands for the handlebars. So I need to import it because handlebar itself provides us a way to register partials. Without HBS package, it was a bit longer step to actually register partials, but with HBS we can have easy way. So register partials, so partials path. Okay, so I hope that you have got the idea that why we needed to use these things. These are just the standard way of getting the particular path of a particular directory in our code, and this is how we register our particular public static directory views partials in our Express app. Okay, so if you have any problem, make sure to comment below. I'll answer your confusions or any kinds of questions you might have. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm not going to render anything in partial and views as of now. I need to get the data and log the data when I search something from my the weather API that I just created over here, rather than actually printing this standard text. Okay, so I need to create a file in my utils, and utils, let's say that weather data.js, and this is the file that I will be using to get the data from a open weather map website. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up openweathermap.org website, and this website provides the live data of weather. You just need to sign up with your account to this website in order to get your secret key, and secret key is actually required to actually get the data. And if you just logged in, I've already logged in, and if I go to the API keys, and it will show me the API key that I've already created. You can create your own API keys. Okay, so I'm gonna create another tab for this website, and I need to go to this API and API doc, and it will give me some samples that I can search by name, I can search by city ID, and a lot more ways, but I will be using city name to fetch the weather data. So if I click on it, and it should show me some data that are related to this particular city, which is London. This is the sample. Okay, we need to copy this link and use the same format to fetch the data, and we can modify this particular API. Okay, and the secret key will be coming over here in the app ID, and the city name would be coming over here. And make sure that for samples they have actually make the changes to these samples, like paste, and this is the API key that I have created. This is not the part of sample, and I'm gonna change the name of this particular city to Lahore. If I hit enter, you can see that the name is still London, and the reason is I'm using the particular route which starts with samples, but it doesn't start with sample here, it starts with API. Okay, so I'm gonna write API, hit enter, and now you can see that this particular data is for the city Lahore, and it is now Lahore data. And I'm just going to copy this thing because this is the actual format, this is the app ID that I need and I have created. Copy it, and what I'm gonna do is this particular weather data will be calling the that particular API to get the weather data from Open Weather Map. I'm gonna create another file in my root directory, okay, and I'm gonna name it config.js. Okay, and this particular file is going to create an object, and it's going to export that particular object, and we can use this generic data in any of the files. Okay, so I'm going to write constants equals to open weather map, and I'm going to give it the base URL first. So give it in double quotes. Base URL would be ending over here to q equals to. Okay, and then I want to give it secret key. Secret key. Okay, so I'm gonna just write the key that I will be needing. So Lahore and app ID. Okay, let me add the comma over here. Now I need to export it because without export I can't use it. Module.exports equals to constants. Okay, so it has been done. Now I need to get back to my weather data, and in the weather data I need to require that particular config because that contains the actual route and the API key, and I need to use the request modules that I just installed. Request will be used to call the API. So const request equals to require request, and constants equals to require slash slash because I need to go out config. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna create a function, and that function will be called from app.js file within this particular endpoint. So I can't just call the API. I need to write a function that will be using the callback, and callback will return the data to that particular endpoint. Okay, so I will write weather data equals to address, and it's going to take the address because I need to pass the address over here, and it's going to take the callback. If you don't know what is callback, I have already created the videos on callbacks, promises, async-await. I'm going to give the link of those videos in the description below. Okay, so now I need to construct the URL. Okay, so const URL equals to constants dot open weather map dot base URL. Okay, and after that I need to parse the address. Okay, so I can directly write address, but I'm going to use a built-in function encode URI component and address. Okay, so value representation encoding problem encodes a text string as a valid component of uniform resource identifier. Okay, so it validates that the text string is valid or not. So after that I'm gonna define a string which is like and app id equals to. Okay, and after that I can write constants dot open weather map dot secret key. So that's pretty much it we need to do. Or URL has been constructed. Okay, so now I'm gonna log the URL in order to see whether our URL has been constructed or not. Okay, and let me first check that whatever we have done is right or wrong. Okay, so before that let me module.exports export it equals to weather data. Okay, now I'm gonna get its path over here. So const weather data equals to require, and which is inside the utils and the weather data. Okay, so that's been done. Now I'm gonna come inside the weather endpoint, and I'm just going to remove it. All right, and inside it I'm just going to call that weather data, and it requires some address. Okay, so we can have the address using the query which can come from the request parameter. Okay, so we can have it from address equals to request.query.address, and address is the keyword that is fixed, and while we use the localhost colon 3000 slash weather question mark address equals to and the name of that particular city or the location, and this is the route that is actually right. So if I write over here for your help localhost 3000 slash weather, and the query means whatever is comes after question mark. So address is a keyword, and after that we can write Lahore and anything. Okay, so first of all, I'm not gonna handle the errors as of now. So address I've got, so I will pass the address over here. Okay, and then I will receive the result coming from that particular weather data function from here. This is the callback that will return true. Okay, so result should contains true. So a lot of things done. Let's go and no, sorry, I'm going to run node src/app.js. Okay, so let's come over here and weather. Okay, so it has printed true and it has printed this URL. Okay, so let's verify if this URL is constructed well or not. I'm gonna copy this URL and paste it over here and hit enter, and it should return me some data. So this is undefined, that this is the reason that it hasn't shown me any error, any data for the location, because we haven't passed any particular city over here. So I will be writing question mark address equals to Lahore, hit enter, and now you can see that it was undefined and now it is Lahore. So I'm going to copy it now, and I'm going to paste it, hit enter, and you can see that our URL was constructed well. Okay, so now let's come over here, and I'm gonna call that particular API using this route and get the data and return a specific data to this particular endpoint. Okay, so now in the weather data, I'm just going to remove it, and I'm going to use request and give it a URL, and I need it to be in the form of JSON. Okay, that's fine. And after that, it's going to give me an error, or it's going to return me the data. So this particular API is going to return me a data within an object named body. Okay, so this is called object deconstruction. I've already created a video on object deconstruction, that a particular data that is returned from an API, if it contains a property called body or anything, we can use the curly braces and write the name of that particular property. If it would have containing another property, we could write it body 2 or anything. Okay, it should be at the same name that will be returned from the backend. Okay, so body will be within that response from that particular route or API. Okay, so now let's move forward, and now body will be containing the data. Okay, so let me log that body. Okay, if it contains the data, and now I'm gonna first check the errors, that if there are errors or not. So if there are error, then I'm going to return it a callback that can't fetch data from open weather map API. And this is because the internal problem in the open weather map APIs. So, and undefined. Okay, it means that there is an error and there is no data to be returned from this particular callback. Else if uh, let's say that no, just write else, and now I'm going to return the callback, which is first of all, there is no error, so I'm going to return undefined, and the second property will be um, okay, so true, abc.true. This is just for testing. I just need to see then what are the properties that this body contains, and using those properties I'm going to fetch the data from this object. So I'm going to rerun the server, and I'm going to refresh. Yeah, okay, so this is the body. Okay, so this is where it is starting from. It contains chords. What we need description to be shown up, fog, and if I show you the example, this is the few clouds. This is where we will show the description. And then we need this temperature. This is in Kelvin. I need to convert it in Celsius, that I'll be doing it. And lastly, I need this name. Okay, so I'm going to write something. First of all, temperature body dot main dot temp, description body dot weather 0 dot description, and now we need to have a city name which is in the body dot name. Okay, make sure it gets the data, so it will be returned from here. Okay, I'm just going to remove it, log remove it, so it, because these are verified that something is being returned from that particular API. Okay, so now it is returning an error or the data. Okay, so let's come over here. So this is where we are calling over weather data function, and inside it, it's calling that particular API. Okay, so now I have passed address. Now I need to handle errors. So error, and after that, rather than actually getting the whole result within the result variable, I can simply use the properties that are being returned from that particular callback. Okay, temperature, second was the description, and the last was the city name. Okay, so let's first check if there was an error returned from there. So return response dot send, and that will be returned to that particular, let's say, error. So if the both properties are of same name, we don't need to write colon and name, we can simply write error. Okay, and after that, let me log those temperature, description, and city name. Okay, and I need to write this return keyword because I'm not writing else after if. So if I don't write else, I need to write return. If I don't write return, then it will return the response from here, and it will also execute the code which is outside the if statement. Okay, so I don't want this to happen. So response dot send, and it's going to return the data. So temperature, the temperature are of same names. So description, city name. Okay, so now what's going on over here? We are building an API which is the localhost colon slash colon 3000 slash weather. It's passing the query string, and inside it we are calling another API. Okay, so that is for the open weather map, right? So whoever the client or the front end HTML will be using our code or a product will be calling this particular API. And what this will do is it will call another API from inside it, and we can have chains of API calls of within the base route that exist with our server to get the data. Okay, so that's been done. Make sure you save all the files. All right, and let me run the server. Let me hit it. All right, so you can see that our data has been printed. So here you can see that 283 colon, which is the temperature, which is the description, and which is the city. So our data is being fetched from the weather open weather map API, and it's being logged in. Okay, we don't have any front end or UI in order to like fetch the data or show the data on our browser, but we will be doing it right after this. Okay, so that's been done. We have handled over error. There is another thing that I want to do. Let's say that we don't pass the address. Then what we do? We need to return something that you need to pass the address. Okay. If we don't write anything in text box and hit search, it should return something. Okay. So I'm going to check it over here. If address and negation, if there is no address, then I'm going to return response.send error. You must enter address in search text box. Fine. It's an object. All right, so let me just remove it, hit the server, and you can see that it has been logged over here. Let me remove the address. Okay, so you can see that it has returned an object. You must enter address in search box text. So we have handled if there is no address added. Okay, fine. So now what we can do is we need to build the interface for the front end. All right. And for when we run our app using the localhost colon 3000, it should show something as well. Not we need to write, because this is the home page of our application. Hi, this is the weather app. So this route should show us that particular weather app and nice looking UI, rather than we need to navigate to that weather slash app. We don't need to navigate to that particular route. Okay, that particular route will be used by the front end code, and that is our search box. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create views and the partials. So first of all, I'm going to copy and paste some CSS that I've already written over here. So I'm gonna give the ref link to these files in the description below. You can just download it and paste it over here. So styles.css. Okay, and I'm gonna paste all the CSS over here. Again, I copied it from CodePen from Aditya Bandari, and credit goes to him. I may have made some changes to these CSS according to my requirement. So that's why I'm giving the link of updated CSS in the description below. Okay. So styles.css, it has been added. So in the views, I'm gonna create two files. So index.hps, and the first file should be index. Second is the error 404.hbs. hbs means handlebars, because in order to render the data in the form of variable rather than constants, we need to write an extension hbs. Okay, so first of all, I'm assuming that you already know the HTML. Okay, so index.hps, I'm gonna paste the HTML over here. Okay, so what it's doing here, right? It's doing is it's just starting with the HTML head. This is head, this is the title, and I will pass this particular title from over response.send. Okay, and this is how we show the value within the variable title in handlebars. Okay, with the double curly braces. This is how we do it in like Angular as well. So body, and this is the class main content, this is the header, and this greater than sign is referring to the partial, because I want this header to be shown up in both 404 and index. Okay, so whatever the value to be passed to this file can also be accessed to this partial. Okay, and after that we have just the nice looking UI for showing the weather data. This form is for the text box and the button, and this is for the weather icon, info, temperature, description, and this is how. Now, you can see that I have also included the reference to this CSS slash styles.css. And why I am directly referring to the CSS slash styles.css, because I've already told the Express server that this is the path for public directory, and public directory contains the CSS, JS, all the media files. That's why I didn't need to go back from index back from public then CSS, because public directory is always accessible to Express server because I've already told over here. Okay, so it is referring to it. After that, I'm referring to the script js slash app.js, which I have not created yet. So I'm going to create app.js, which is for the front end, and it's going to be it's going to call the API that I have just created, which is this slash weather. Okay, and it's going to update the data, the text content for all the elements I have written in this HTML. Okay, this front end public directory JavaScript file will be responsible for calling that API. Okay, make sure to save all these files. Okay, fine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes over here. Response.send hi. Um so rather than using send, if we need to render some file which is in the form of HTML or handlebars, I need to write render. Okay, so this render is responsible for fetching the data from the file. So the name of my file is index. I don't need to write the path because I have already given it the directory for the views. Okay, because this view is containing the reference to this index. Okay, so index, and after that I'm going to pass the data, which is the title, because this is the title I am showing up weather app. Okay, so now it's going to render the index file and passing the title to it. So it is coming over here. This will be the title will be shown up, and this is the header, uh, and the header should also contain, let me just write header.hps. Okay, so header is already accessible to this index file because we have given the reference to the partials over here. So I'm going to write something in the header. So let me write header and h2 and the title. So because the title I want to show it to the header as well and in the tab bar. Okay, so I could directly write title over here because over here, but I need header to be shown up in every view file. So that's why I have created a separate partial for the header. Okay, so that's been done. I have done a lot of things. Now it's time to test it. Okay, so let me just refresh. All right, guys, you can see that I have hit the URL localhost colon 3000, and it just got over here rendered index file title, and the title is passed weather app, and you can see the tab button has been weather app as the title, and this is being shown up. Okay, 404 contains nothing, so uh, I need to go app.js file, and I'm sending something from here, so I need to render the 404 page from here as well. Okay, so I'm gonna write render 404 title page not found. Okay, so I'm just going to save this file, and I'm going to open up 404.hps file and I'm gonna paste the code inside it. So now you can see that it is showing up the title and it is showing up the header. Header is receiving the same title which is being sent from the separate routes. Okay, so page not found. So let me just save all the files, rerun the server, hit the URL, and I'm going to write slash anything, and it should have shown me uh, that particular title. Okay, so files were not saved. Let me save all the files. Sorry guys. So let me just hit the URL and you can see that the page not found is being shown up from this header file. Okay, I'm going to close it, close 404.hbs config. I need to close it. I don't need this weather data to be opened, and I think that's pretty much is done. Now what I need to do is I need to update the data that will be done from our JavaScript file, which is in the public directory, which is, you can call it a front end, which is this is the client. So it will be responsible for calling the weather API to get the data and update the elements over here. We can use it, we can import the jQuery as well to update the DOM of this particular HTML. So index.hps, you can see that it is showing up js/app.js. So this is showing up over here. Let me just write hello if this shows up or not. Okay, so let me refresh it. I'm gonna go and inspect console. So hello, so you can see that JavaScript file is being loaded up over here. Okay, so everything now we need to do is in the JavaScript file. Okay, so it's gonna be interesting now. Let me just remove it. So first of all, I need to like what route I need to call in order to get the data. Okay, so I'm gonna write var fetch weather equals to weather. Okay, I don't need to write the localhost colon 3000. The reason is if we export or publish our code to any server, each server have a separate domain. Someone, like, we can have a domain name, not the localhost, so we don't need to write slash weather. Okay, we just need to write slash rather than localhost. Okay, so now let me just get the value that will be entered in this text box, and if we hit the button, I need to log that particular value. So const weather form equals to the document dot query selector, and this is the form. And I've got the form will be used to add event listener on the submit button. This is for if we write something in text box and hit the enter rather than clicking on the button, it will also call the API or whatever the code is written inside it. Okay, that's why I've selected the form. So const, this is the search input, so document dot query selector, and I'm gonna give it input. Okay, so now let me just write weather form dot add event listener. This is for the submit and event, and I wanna call it prevent default because I want to stop the default behavior of the submit or clicking on button or anything. Okay, default. Okay, so this search is going to be containing that particular value. So I want to log the search dot value in order to check whether our data is being rendered correctly or not. So let me rerun the server, make sure you save all the files. Let me reload it, write something, hit enter, and you can see in the log that we have got the data. So whatever we are writing in this text box, we can get the value using search dot value. Okay, nice, cool. Okay, so now let me add the reference to our uh, icon. We need to have a reference to temperature. We need to reference to the weather condition, which is the description, and the location. Okay, and also the date. I don't need the date from the backend API. I can just get the today date using the date built-in JavaScript date function. Okay, so let me just close the app.js, which is the part of the API. Now I need to reference the weather icon document dot query selector, and the name of class is weather icon I. Okay, let me just verify it. So this is the weather icon and this is the I tab. So I is actually containing the icon reference. Okay, so I've got it right. So const weather condition equals to document dot query selector, and I need to write weather condition. Okay, I'm just going to copy it, paste it multiple times. So I need to have temperature, so temp element, and which is the class temperature, I'm sure, and after that it is having the span, so temperature and the span. Okay, fine. And now I need to have a location element, so location element, and which is in the class place, and then I can have date element, and date element is having like date. Let me just write date. Okay, so this is the date, this is place, and this is the weather condition. Okay, so I've got it right. Okay, so what I need to do is, first of all, let me show up the date. It is not dependent on the API call. We can directly write the date. Okay, so date element dot text content equals to new uh, date, which is a lot of data, and I'm gonna write get date. Okay, so let me refresh and rerun the server, hit the URL, and you can see it has printed 21, which is today, 21 December 2019. And I need to show the month. So I can have a month in digits, but I need to have the month in like in letters. Okay, how can I do it? I need to write some logic. Let me write an array of all the months. So month names equals to, and I'm going to paste the names of all the months. I've got some from internet. If you Google it, you will find it. Okay, so this array contains all the months, but I need to show the first three letters. I can directly write it, or I can just get the substring from it. Okay, so I'm gonna write plus comma plus and the month names, and the month name I can get it from new date dot get month. Okay, and it will return me the whole month January, February, but in order to get the first three letters I can write substring from 0 to 3. Okay, so let me rerun the server and refresh it, and it should show me 21st December. So we got it right. Okay, now the interesting part comes right here. Okay, let me move it up. Okay, so now Let's first show up the loading dot dot dot. If you write something and until and unless the data that is not returned from that particular API, we need to show loading over here. Okay, so which element we need to be used to show the loading? So let's say that I want to write this temperature element, or in the middle we have the location. Yeah, so use the location element in order to show the loading until and unless the data comes back from the API. So location element dot text content equals to loading dot dot dot. Okay, and all other data needs to be empty. So temp element dot text content equals to the empty. Okay, you might be confused that, well, let's say it's already empty. Why we need to re-empty it? So let's say that we have searched something over here and there is a data over here, and we search something again over here. The old data will be showing up over here. So we need to make it empty for the next search. Okay, so temp element, so weather condition dot text content equals to empty. Okay, now we need to call the API. And what is the root of API? Which is the slash weather question mark address equals to and this search dot value. Okay, so let's construct the URL for that. So location API equals to fetch weather, which is slash weather, and after that we can have question mark address equals to search dot value. Okay, so in the JavaScript we can use a fetch keyword in order to get the data from that particular API. So location API uh, dot then it returns the promise, and we can receive the promise using the then keyword, and then the response. Okay, so response is going to be containing the data. Okay, let me just log it. So console.log and the response. Okay, I'm just going to remove all the logs. Okay, so let me run the server again and hit refresh. I'm gonna write Lahore. It's showing up the loading. It will keep on showing up the loading because I haven't updated the data, but in the response you can see that it has returned me something over here. It has shown me that this was the response type basic URL. This URL is fine, status okay, status 200, and there is no error, and this is the body. Okay, so which is, you can see that it is not showing anything over here, and the reason is that we need to convert the response in JSON format. Okay, so I'm going to write response.json dot then, and I'm going to pass it the data, and in the log now I need to write the data over here. Okay, now it should show me the actual data. So refresh Lahore. Now you can see that it has returned me the temperature description Lahore. Awesome. We have got the data. Now this data is going to be shown up over here in our app. All right. So let me first check the errors. Okay. Let's say if data.error. If data.error, let me just copy it from here. I need to show the error message uh, in my location element in the same position where I'm showing this loading dot dot dot. So I'm gonna write data.error, which is that string, and if I show you weather data, and this is the string that will be shown up over here. Okay, so that's fine. and if there is an error, else I'm going to just let me just copy these three lines and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so first of all, I need to show the location element, which is the city. So data dot, what was the name? City name, description, and temperature. So city name, and now I need to show the temperature, and temperature is like data dot temperature, and I need to show the weather condition, so which is the description. So data dot description, and I need to make it an uppercase. This is the example, so I need to make it uppercase. uh, this is I'm not just reloading this page because it was rendered before uh, I started this tutorial. So this is the fog, which is the description. So I need to make it an uppercase, so to uppercase. All right, I hope that it's going to work. Okay, so Lahore. Okay, guys, it has loaded up, and 282, which is in Kelvin, I need to convert it to the Celsius. It's a winter season, so there is a fog in Lahore, and I need to make something this useful for this icon. Okay, it's very it's gonna be a big debate that how we can handle it, but I'm gonna use the shortcut that I'm going to make checks to just three keywords in order to make this icon changed. If it doesn't match those three keywords, I'll show the default icon, which is like I think this is the day cloudy. Okay, but first of all, I need to show that degree sign for that temperature. Okay, and to show that degree sign, I can write uh, like string dot from char code, and for the degree sign, I have a char code 176, and it will show me the degree sign. Okay, and let me just convert it to the Celsius. To convert from Kelvin to Celsius, I need to decrement the value to 273.5. Okay. All right. So refresh Lahore. Okay, it is showing up the degree sign, and there is an issue that we need to restrict it to only show two decimals. Okay. So how we can do it? We can do it like dot to fixed 2. Okay, refresh this Lahore, and now you can see it's looking cool, looking nice. Let me try another city, Melbourne in Australia. So it should show me the data from the Melbourne city. So you can see broken clouds 11.94. Wow, Australia is having a winter over there in Melbourne. Okay, so I can write Gilgit in Pakistan. It's going to be too cold, let me tell you guys. So Gilgit, scattered clouds minus 14 degree. It's freezing over there. So now everything is done. Everything is looking cool. And let me write something that doesn't exist. So it is showing me that failed to fetch uncaught in promise. So it is not rendering anything. So I need to use can't read property temp of undefined body dot main dot temp. Okay, so it's the error for the undefined. This temp does not exist because main doesn't exist. So I need to make a check that if the main or whether or name exists in the response, then it should move forward. So let me write else if over here, and inside it I can actually check like if body.main it doesn't exist, or body.main.temp, or body.name, or body.weather. Yeah, so if any of these doesn't exist, then I need to write a callback and unable to find required data, try another location. Okay, this is the error, so there is no data to be returned. All right, so let me refresh the server, refresh it again. Now write something that doesn't exist, and now in quote promise. Okay, so it is showing me that the property temperature of undefined or null. Okay, body.main, body.main.temperature, body.name, body.weather. So this temperature is not being fetched. So temp. Okay, fine. So let me write like temperature. It doesn't exist. Temperature of undefined or null. Or if we come over here, then we need to actually not this one over here, and if there is an error then we need to return something from here, else we don't need anything over here. Okay, so the error is because we are returning something over here. Okay, so in case the actual data doesn't get returned, these properties won't exist in the response. So by default I need to give something over here. So I'm going to give it empty object in case if there is no data returned from the temperature. Okay, so let's move forward. I'm gonna write Lahore, and it should show me the error message over here now. Okay, no, not error message, show me the data. I'm gonna write something that doesn't exist. So unable to find, wow, it has shown me the error message because this location does not exist. Okay, so now last thing is to handle those icons. Okay, so icons, let's say that we have this cloudy, and if I write fog over here, what does it show? Refresh. So you can see that it has changed the icon for the fog. So I know that for this particular syntax, there can have a rain, fog, cloudy. I don't know if there are more. So I'm gonna make these three checks over here. So I'm gonna write if data dot description, because description actually takes what it's like the weather in that particular location. So cloudy. Now it's like rain, or data dot description equals to fog. Okay, then weather icon dot class name, and because this is the class name, this is not the text, this is the class. So class name, I want to change it to wi day slash and the data dot description. Okay, else I'm gonna copy it. If it doesn't have any of these keys, then I need to show it cloudy. Okay, so let me just add a cloudy. Now, if it is fog, the description is fog, then this should be updated the class name of that weather icon. Okay, so refresh, and I'm gonna write Sydney over here. So this icon, this because the data that was returned from the backend does not contain the rain or fog. Okay, so let me just log it. What does it? La, it contains scattered clouds. Oh, it's scattered clouds. Yeah. So Lahore actually contains fog. So let me write Lahore, and this icon has been changed. And this is like the temperature. This is the description. This is the location, and this is the date. All error handlings are done, and this whole HTML, this whole data is being rendered from the node, but it actually being behaved as a front end client, because this front end client is actually calling this particular API, which is existing in the same application that we have built. Okay, so it's pretty long video, but I hope that you guys have liked it and learned a lot from this one video by building an awesome weather application. Don't forget to give credit to this guy for giving us this awesome good looking style HTML and CSS file, and we can you can just expand it in any way. Okay, you can write and bind any kind of data using this particular API. I just use the current weather data. You can have the forecast as well if you want to do it, but you might need to pay it for that because nothing is free. The current weather data is free, but other data might not be free for multiple users. Okay, so if you have any question, any problem, any confusion in writing or understanding the different parts of this code that I've just written over here, make sure you write a comment below. I'll try to answer your questions as soon as possible. And there is a course that I have built with Angular and Loopback, which is the framework of Node. So make sure it's if you need that course, I'm going to give the link of that course, Udemy course, in the description below, and I'm going to give you the coupon for that for $10, and that is going to be an awesome learning experience for you guys. So if you like my video, make sure you subscribe my channel and hit the like button and hit the bell icon for getting the notification for all the upcoming videos from our channel. Thanks for watching, guys.